When it comes to Tudor watches, everybody knows and talks about the Black Bay. And yet, Tudor has other collections, and there is a watch which I believe deserves revisiting. One that is more important than you might think at first, and the name is the Tudor North Flag. The Tudor North Flag isn't a novelty. It was presented at Basel World 2015, and this is exactly why it's interesting to take a look back at this watch, now that we've had time to understand what it meant for the brand and where it comes from. We've had time to digest this new watch and look at it more objectively, not influenced by the reactions of our very first impressions. Believe it or not, the North Flag is an important watch in Tudor history, just like the Black Bay was back in 2012. The North Flag is a watch that marked the transition for Tudor, and yet is still rather an overlooked model. The 1970s inspired design of the Tudor North Flag didn't materialise out of the blue. It is a link to the brand's heritage, which is inspired by a model from the past. This watch, which can seem modern at first sight, adopts some of its design cues from the Ranger 2. Back in the 1970s, Tudor created an evolution of the Ranger series, right in the middle of the trend for luxury sport watches. The Ranger 2 didn't make history, and this watch is admittedly not one of Tudor's greatest successes. Yet the reference 9010 is interesting, as it features several iconic elements of the era: a prominent bezel, an integrated metallic bracelet with large links, and a more angular design all round. Thus, the North Flag is a robust steel watch that is fitted on an integrated metal bracelet. Sporting the same kinds of hands, arrow hours and yellow syringe seconds, and numeral indices as the Ranger 2. Before the 2015 collection, Tudor had always relied on outsourced movements. It was one of the key elements in the brand's policy of affordability. While Rolex had been using proprietary in-house movements for decades, Tudor relied heavily on ETA, even for the first generation of the Black Bay and Pelagos watches. However, moving from external sourcing to internal production was a huge step forward, and the North Flag was meant to show it, even more considering that it was one of the few watches of the brand to include a complication, in this instance a power reserve indicator. What ticks inside the North Flag is a rather impressive movement if you consider the retail price of Tudor watches, and the relatively low price increase compared to the ETA powered timepieces. Compared to these outsourced movements, improvements are noticeable. First, it comes with a robust power reserve of 70 hours, almost 3 days, enough to leave it on a nightstand for the weekend and put it back on Monday morning still running. Secondly, it features an anti-magnetic spiral made of silicon with a variable inertia screw that vibrates at 28,800 vibrations per hour, chronometer certified by COSC. Resemblances with a modern Rolex movement from the 3200 series are quite obvious. Same power reserve, same transitional clock bridge, same overall layout for the bridges. No hard feelings here, as having Rolex overlooking the development of a movement should be reassuring. This movement shows a limited decoration. This toolish look also keeps the cost down with no influence on the specifications themselves. The bridges and plates are matte finish sandblasted with similarly decorated bevels. Only the rotor shows a sunray brushed pattern to give a bit of life to this otherwise plain and simple looking caliber. MT 5621. On a daily basis, however, the Tudor's movement is a great companion, easy to operate with hacking and hand winding. Instantaneous date is pleasant to wind, precise, and apparently built to resist the tough life these watches are made to withstand. In a nutshell, it's a purpose-built engine.